9 days old now. We're just having a blast, and of course, we had Columbus Day over the weekend, big Italian event. So anyway, I hope you all had good ones, and your week is going good right now. So we're going to pick up tonight on the session is contacting the estate. And again, if any of you had questions from last Thursday night, if you want to post any of those questions right now, we can start with a couple questions. We just have about everybody here. There's one or two still coming on. But first of all, let me hear that you guys are hearing me okay. I'm using a new audio system tonight, so I wanted to make sure that you can hear me. So can somebody type in the lower left corner that you're hearing me good? Okay, great. All right, so we're doing good. You're welcome, Walt. So let's get started here. Contacting the estate. Does it look like any of you had any questions? I must have done a great job, huh? So this is another key component of my system because contacting the estate, of course, if you're not making phone calls or sending letters and getting responses, then you're really not going to have any properties to be working on. If you remember what I told you in the last sessions, that where we want you guys to be after you're up and running on your own and you're getting letters out, you're making calls, and however you're contacting, is we want you to be having about 25 conversations going at all times with estates in a different area of where they're going to do, what they're going to do with the properties. Some may be now business and you're going on appointments. Some may be after the personal rep, the PR, if you remember, is elected and approved by the court to be the executor if there is a will, or administrator if there isn't a will. Then and there will be some of these contacts and conversations that are saying we're not going to do anything until after we go through final distribution, which is the end of the probate year in California. And then they're going to, whoever's going to be the rightful heirs of the property are going to receive the property. So we always like and recommend for the PRs, executors, administrators to sell the probate property during the probate because it's a lot less liability on them. It's the estate selling the home, not really them. There's a lot less disclosure laws in California that the selling a probate that you have to do. Um, I mentioned this in a past session that they can liquefy the asset. So instead of being a $500,000 value, but really only 100 grand equity because they owed 400, it would only be 100 grand asset, and they'd pay less tax or less fees on that to the attorney. So what we're going to talk about today is the way we get into contact with the estate. So if you turn your first page, you're going to see the four ways we do this, and it says contacting the estate, and there's a letter of inquiry. There is a letter for a real estate agent I'm going to show you tonight. It's in your books. We'll talk about a letter for an investor, and then some of the flyers that I personally use. So, of course, if you want to incorporate any of my flyers, go ahead. They work very well for us. Of course, you have to change them around a little bit to fit your own branding, but this will give you kind of the core of what we do. So these are the actual flyers that we do. And, just to let you know, we are so busy right now. We are making almost an offer a day right now. And for all these reasons that I tell you guys that deals won't go through, it still applies here. I had another one. Remember I mentioned that when the estates start thinking about selling and you're around there in the early stages, and that gets out to some of the family members or whatever, then other people kind of come to the woodwork, and that's why we want to tie up property. So you'll learn how we do this. But sure enough, we lost one to a family member who happened to be a realtor. They were kind of consulting. We came in to make the offer, and they got scared they were going to lose it, so they brought in a retail buyer, no listing or nothing, and it just happens, okay? But we don't worry about it. We'll still get probably. I'm trying to do one a week right now, trying to buy one for my investor group, double in one a week. That's what we shoot for a month, somewhere between 25 and 35. That's pretty much where we kind of our sweet spot. So this stuff works. So let's talk about, turn the page, and what you're going to see here is the first letter that we send out, and this would be a letter going out to the executor. And you can see we always start out the same way. Let us first express our sincere condolences for the passing, of Bruce. We can appreciate your loss, Kathy. This letter works very well. And then we go through and just talk about some of the things that, could be hot buttons for them. Okay? And I'll put on there, please reply. Now, this letter, if you're not getting telephone numbers when you're doing your lead service, if you're on a different lead service and they're not providing telephone numbers, or you're in a state that they just don't do that, then your letters are going to be key to you. So these are the letters that we use in the past, and the letters that we use right now, and they're working very well. Okay. So you can use this, change it around to whatever you like. You'll put your branding down there on the bottom. Of course, if you're not a real estate agent, it would just be, Joe Investor. And it just kind of lets them know exactly what we do, and some of the things that they need to think about if they're going to sell that property. Okay. If you turn the page again, this is one of our team agents. This was her personal letter that she kind of took my letters and made up her own, and this has been getting her quite a few appointments, and she's only been with me for about a year. Okay. All right. So Walt, go ahead. You got a question? Shoot. Anybody can ask a question at any time. You're up, Walt. Okay. While Walt's typing in his question, just kind of look over that letter, and you'll see that she kind of changed it to her own style. Now, if you're not with me, of course, you can still tie yourself to me because you're one of my students. And if you happen to be in Arizona, I work with the Gary D team. I work the Arizona area, and this group has been helping investors for 25 years. You can kind of say that, even though we're it's loosely connected, but it's a true statement, because if you need help, we're going to help you on the deal, via the telephone and via email. But you could do that until you start having a track record for yourself. Okay, so Walt's question is personable. Okay, we haven't had any complaints yet. This letter was actually construed by one of my number one bird dog that I use. The guy's very good, and he really gets in there on a personal level, and it's all about that. It's all about personal level, them liking you and all this. So we haven't had anybody offended that we used their first name. So okay, and all right. So back to that second letter. If you go to the third letter, this is one that we'll use, that I'll actually send out because it's my investor, and I'll put my investor's name in there. If you can see, I've been asked to contact owners in your neighborhood by my client, and I'll name my investor even in there, or if it was my partner in the early days. Okay. Okay. Walt asked. Yes. Let's see. This next letter, number 3, is just if you were representing an investor. This is one that you can use, and it's kind of just telling them, they can sell right now. We can close in 3 weeks. We could save you thousands on the commission that you would pay a listing agent. And what you're going to hear all these programs that I have in my flyers. As you see, I have a no commission program, a discounted commission program, a 14-day guarantee program, all kinds of stuff. So whatever I need to draw on, if I'm going up against somebody or not, I'll do. We just did this week, going up against another agent, and we were able to get it because I used one of my options that we gave to the estate. Okay, so this is nothing earth-shattering here. This is just to give you some reference for what you will be doing when you guys start mailing out and whatever. We have a client out of Las Vegas that uses the yellow letter postcard, and kind of the same verbiage that we're using, but does it in a voice, yellow card. And he's been telling us he's getting about one deal about every 30 cards that goes out. So that's pretty good. Okay. So there's nothing, written in stone here. Again, we're showing you what we do, and you may even have a better approach. But this is just to kind of help you along. Some people don't have, they don't understand what to send out first, so we give you these examples to use, and then down the road you may be able to, manufacture your own form that you feel works better for you after the years. Okay, let's go to the next page. Uh, Here is another one, and this would be real estate agent, and you could be sending to that same estate of Bruce Jackson, and you can see it's kind of all the same. And what this is here is I'm working with a retail buyer. So I want to make sure they understand that, because most of the calls the PRs are going to receive are going to be from investors looking for wholesale deals, and for agents that, that might be representing investors, and some agents that want listings. But I don't contact estates to get listings. I contact them to bring them a deal. And whether it's a wholesale or retail, that will spell itself out after we get into conversations and talk about things. But this would be the letter here if you were a real estate agent, and that kind of spells out who you're working with and things like that. Okay? Let's go to the next page. All right, so here's, again, it's the same letter that we've been using. This is directly from an investor. So if you're not a real estate agent, we're willing to pay you $5,000 more than your best wholesale offer if you give us a chance to bid. That's pretty powerful stuff. So if you can convince them on that, and you're probably going to get a shot to at least pitch and then go from there. Okay? So most people, if they're going to make more, $5,000 more, normally what they're going to do is give you a shot to come in there, and then you might be in a little bidding war with the other guy. But that's okay. You do enough of those, and you'll pick up an extra few deals a year, with this approach on here. Okay? All right, let's go to the next page. Okay, and what this is what we do here is a letter that I'm sending to the attorney. All right, a lot of people ask me, what do you do with the attorneys? Do you call them? What do you do? When we were doing this, we send the letters to the attorney. You can fax this to them, because you can get their fax number in the petition when you're getting your leads. And if you're on my lead service, we give you their fax number or their email. Email is actually the best, because it's not going to go through a gatekeeper. It's going to go right to the attorney, usually. Some attorneys have their assistants answering their emails and all, but for the most part, you'll have a better shot at getting to the attorney with an email address. Okay? So this is just a letter that we'll use to go direct to the attorney. Okay? Now that's the series of letters that we're using right now. And, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay? Any questions on that? Give you a few seconds, 30 seconds to post the questions on our letters. And thank you, Walt, for that past question. Okay, so we're moving right along here. So if you go to the next page, you're going to see one of my hot flyers that I use. Is everybody there? I have a picture of my pretty mug in the upper left corner, and it's going to say the estate home sold in 14 days guaranteed. Anybody not see that right now? Okay, good. This here kind of puts in a lot of options that, if nothing else, is going to confuse them a little bit if they're talking to another agent or an investor, and they're probably going to respond to this. Okay, we get good response off of this, and this is one of the letters we send out every time we talk to somebody first, and then we're following up, and we're sending this particular one, and I'll show you a couple more that we send in our first mailing. Okay, but if you look at this, my unique selling proposition, and this is as an agent, is that we'll sell their home in 14 days guaranteed. Now all this really means is I'm not buying the house at the end of 14. Of course we would if they give us our number, but if I'm trying to sell it, because I have a program that if I can do this in 14 days, then I'm bringing them an offer on the property, and there's no commission involved, a few other things, but they give me basically a 14-day exclusive on the property. And when markets are hot, this is a great way to go, because if you're priced right and you can't sell it in 14 days, you're probably overpriced. Now in this market, because we've slowed a little bit, we'll probably we want to do our Craigslist ads. We want to get buyers. I'm an investor. I might be working with a few other investors. I want to wholesale the property out to them just to see what I can do to get this thing sold. Okay, and I'll put on here, if you're selling or would like to learn all the options available to the estate, my 25 years of probate experience can help you. That's very powerful, because I'm setting the stage that I've been doing this for 25 years. So I have a free online estate home valuation, the phone number they call, extension they put in. I think we're changing numbers now. I don't know if we've changed it yet, so that may or may not be an accurate number right now. This was an older flyer, but we have that, so they can actually call and get a online estate home valuation, which is kind of powerful. Their comps for the area, give them a call up. So it's a nice touch to have. Our pay zero commission program, it opens up a lot of eyes. They want to know, how can we do this? Other agents don't know how to react to it if they're reading it. Our fix-up program, there's no upfront cost to the estate. What I've done over the years, I have contractors that I've worked with that used to do all of our flips, and it's kind of scaled down over 25 years to some guys that we really have a working relationship. And what I do is, there's two ways to do this. The contractor will front the cost of everything to remod the house, upgrade it, fix it, whatever it takes to bring it up to high retail value. The estate will receive an as-is value on the property that we'll come to agreement with. And let's say that number was $300,000 as is, with nothing done, based on all the work that needs to be done, reports and everything. Then we'll sell the property. Because I am the agent in this case, they have to have the listing with me in order to get this. It's got to be listed with me at all times, otherwise the money's due. And what we do is we go after high retail, and then once we net the $300,000 to the estate, whatever the equity left is split between the investor or the contractor. Because part two of this is, I'll bring an investor in, because maybe the contractor that does this for me is busy and I have to bring in another contractor, but he needs money up front, and I'll put an investor in and put the money up front. So instead of that investor having to put up $300,000 to buy the house, they might only have to put up $30,000 or $40,000 to do the remod. And of course, the return's not going to be the same if they were building it, but it's a way for them to keep their money working. And they're going to pick up a few points on that. And then what I do is I charge a 7% commission now to run that program. And then what I do is I pay a point of the commission to the contractor and to the investor as well. So they're picking up pretty good. If it was 30 grand and they picked up a couple points, 2 or 3 points, $600-900 there, a little interest for 3 months, 4 months, and another point on the sale that went for 400,000 or 450. They pick up another 4 grand or so. It's good for them and the investor as well. And the estate will end up netting more money than they would have if they just sold it as is. In reality, what happens here, just a little tip, this is a great lead-in to get and sit in front of the executor and talk about this, because what I'm doing with this program is taking the option that they're going to fix the property and get high retail themselves. I'm addressing that option before it comes up, and it will come up during with the family conversations when they all get wind of, they're going to sell the property. Somebody will bring this up. Well, let's sell it. Let's fix it up ourselves and sell it. So I'm hitting that up. What happens 9 out of 10 times is, once we get into it and I explain the program and this, that, and whatever, they say it's just too encompassing, too much to do. Just give us the 300 and we'll be happy with that. Okay, that's normally what happens most of the time. But because I have the Fix Up program in my flyer, it allows me to get first contacts with the executor, the PR, whatever, because they want to understand this, because they're thinking this at first a lot of times. We have a trash out and a personal property liquidation service. Now, in the past, it was my cousin Lou, who has passed away now, but um, retired banking executive. In his last 20 years after retirement, he had a personal property liquidation service, and they would buy estates, all the personal property, and then resell, or they do a sale on premises for a percentage. It was kind of a hobby that he enjoyed to do. But he was a guy I would call if the estate had a bunch of items they want to get rid of. I would call him. He would come over and either take it all from them with one price, or if they wanted more, then he would do a consignment sale and take a third of the profits. So it's just a service that we offer, and people want to hear that, because if you can take a lot off their plate, the PR, you'll be a little bit more closer to them in their mind, because you're offering a lot of services. And then the trash out is just family comes and takes all the items of value or items of personal, it's something that was a memento to them and they want to keep it. And then the rest of it left is usually junk. And I've gotten some cars in the past, and I know we got a Corvette once, and I got like a '38 Dodge once, and a few other things. But to make a living on that stuff, it's really not there. It's mostly trash or flea market items, because the family's going to take most of that. But it's a service that we use. On my flyers, I always state I have letters of recommendation, and I have them from estate attorneys, from title companies, from executors, PRs, brokers that I've done probates with, and that just kind of insulates me and my team and what I do a little bit better than any of the other agents can do in my area, because they haven't done 450 probates. They don't have 20 years history with one title company and over 10 with another one, and a lot of attorneys that we've done deals with that, that, remember I mentioned you hit attorneys after the fact. You don't try to solicit them up front. Once you get a deal, then you work the attorney for the second deal and third deal and ongoing business. So we'll give them those if we need to. And then a big one to me, and the estates like this, I even had attorneys say, I really like this program. We're going to do some business. What I do is we donate on every closing in the estate's name to the St. Jude Children's Cancer Research Hospital. And I don't know if you guys know much about that. That's what Danny Thomas started, and his daughter Marlo heads up. And again, I'm a cancer survivor. Most people know that. It's been 14 years now, but it's very close to me. And thinking about children going through that, is that's just a devastating thing for the family and the child. So it's close to us, and we make a donation in the estate's name. So if the father of the PR passed, Joe Smith, then what happens, we make this donation at the end to St. Jude, and the family gets a nice certificate from St. Jude in the father's name that, a donation has been made to the St. Jude's, Children's Cancer Research in the name of Joe Smith. I've gotten so many nice responses after that, just goodwill, and it just feels good. Um, and of course, whatever charity, if you're going to do something like this, whatever charity that might be close to you, or close to the attorney, or close to the family member, just go with that. And no, it's not 10% of the purchase price. It's usually 10% of my net commission. Just depends on the deal. Okay, and you don't have to do that. It could be $100 or $50 that you donate, because the donation amount is not put on the certificate. It's just that it was done, and you do whatever you feel, and whatever charity that you feel. But if you add this nice touch, you're doing something good for humanity, and what comes around goes around, and it will separate you a little bit more from everybody else. Okay. So if you go to the next page, or first of all, any questions on my flyer? Any questions there? This is my lead flyer that we use right now, to date, hot off the presses. Okay, good. Yeah. So I just said, Walt, just the first three that you're going to see in our book here goes on my first a little bit more. We don't send these out to the PRs at large. we normally send our information after we've had a conversation. Now, if you're in an, that's because I have 150 a month coming across my desk, remember. But if you're in an area and you're only getting 15 or so, or 25, then you're going to have to work a little bit deeper into each one of those. And you may want to send everybody a letter, whether they have a phone number or not, and then do your follow-up program from there. Okay. But yes, so that's, any other questions on the flyer? Okay, we're okay. All right. So let's go to page 2. So here is my biography that I include, and all my team members and all my bird dogs. And remember, my have about 10 that are with me at EXP right now. They're all at different levels of real estate. A lot of newbies that we're training, and I have others that are seasoned guys. And then I have my bird dogs that call. So they have all access to this, and then they'll send this out, because what they're saying here around the Bay Area is, and it's true, is they're part of my team, and I head it up. So Gary Jr. will go into this a little bit more, because he's going to come on and talk a little bit about when you're picking up the phone. This was a fantastic session over the weekend. People raved about it. And he'll even send you flyers and his files and stuff if you send him an email, his slides, I mean. So, okay, so this is my biography, and we go into that, and it kind of just talks about what I've done. And, I've trained, now it's over 4,000 people that buy and sell probates. I can't tell you how that helps. And if you're out there saying, I'm working with a group that has trained over 4,000 people across the country, and I'm one of them, and I work the Phoenix, Arizona area or the Seattle, Washington area for the group, we're all tied together across the country. And you can even show my biography, but you're the guy working in your particular state for the group. See how that works? Until you have your own, and then you'll be, you got 25 closings or 50 closings. That's starting to get you to be an expert level. Okay. So if we go to the next page, we're in how to interview a probate real estate agent. And this is the third part of my first mailing. This is a key flyer as well, because it talks to the question. I can't tell you how many properties we were able to get under contract or get the listing and then sell it to our investor or client, because I asked questions pertaining to the probate that I knew only seasoned probate agents would really know, the guys that have really closed a lot. And so what we did here is we posted those questions and then answered it for what our team did, and we talked to the estate about it. And then when they're talking to their agents that they might be interviewing or other people or whatever, it has opened their eyes a little bit. I got a lot of good reaction from this. Okay, so you can read through those. And any question on this form? Okay, so if you move on to the next page, here's one of the drip flyers that we'll send after we send out our initial package, and about 10 days later, we'll send another one out stating, we have a buyer ready to bring the estate an excellent offer. Now keep in mind, we're not going after listings. Our big push to the PRs is we don't want to list your property and put a sign out, let someone else sell it. We want to bring you an offer that is acceptable to you today, and avoid all that red tape and what you have to go through. And you'll be surprised how many of the estates don't want to do that. They want top dollar until we break that down and let them understand what top dollar really is. But if they can get close to that and not have to go through the whole listing process and all that goes with that, a lot of times they'll just say, sell this and let us get our life back. Okay. But there's something, a no broker fee charge for handling the transaction. That is heavy. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not getting paid. Okay. I'll put in there, why pay 6% to another broker? We charge nothing. Very powerful. As is, no hassle purchase. 25 years of probate real estate experience. Experienced, professional, knowledgeable. Introducing buyers to estate properties that need to be sold. Professional representation, no listing agreement necessary. Those are all hot buttons. No listing agreement, 25 years of probate experience. As is, no hassle, no commission. Very big. Okay, then I got the little paragraph down there, 72-hour cash offers, high retail price program, no commission fee program, fix up. Okay, I've touched every obstacle that will come up when you're talking to estates about getting the property, and they say, well, yeah, well, we want to talk about this with this other guy. I'm already handling this in my flyers and stuff, so when they call me, I pretty much covered everything. Okay, so it's not that big of a deal. So you have any other questions on this flyer? Okay, so we're moving right along. I'm going to put on the music. When you hear the music, it's your time to put a question in, okay? So, all right, next flyer is my fix up program. Now, remember, this was kind of on the first cover program, right? So, what I'm doing is kind of isolating some of those options, and this would come another 10 days after that. Because remember, when you're talking to estates, what they tell you when you first talk to them on the phone is probably going to change a few times before they finally make their decision what they're going to do. So we're just trying to make a friend in that conversation, knowing that them telling you we're going to sell after the probate is probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be before. Or them saying I'm going to list it with my cousin Joey is probably not going to happen when they find out that Joey is really not a real estate agent. He's a commercial broker, things like that. Okay. All right. So my next flyer that goes out another 10 days later, try to space everything about 10 days. Because what we're doing is keeping our branding in front of them so they see my name, they see the company and what we're doing. This is a fix up program. This is going to talk about that. If the estate heirs want to fix up the estate property, repairs and cosmetic, to enhance the sales price when placed on the open market, the Gary D team has a program for you. So fix up, repair, whatever they want to do. We include the rehab supervision by the Gary D team. That's why I'm charging a little bit more in the commission as well. It includes contractors who work with the Gary D team. The estate keeps all of the net dollars from the sale. Okay? On this particular one, this is not the joint venture. This is just a fix-up program. They're going to pay the contractor for the work, or my investor's paying the contractor for the work, and the investor's picking up a few fees on that. This is not a joint venture program. Okay? The cost to fix up the repair comes out of the sale, so it's paid at the end of the closing. And it includes a trash out and personal property liquidation. This is all good stuff, okay? And kind of just talks a little bit more that they're in good hands, and that later on a full explanation and breakdown can be, if you want to talk about this face to face. But keep in mind, even though they may think they want to fix up, when you talk about it, when you learn this a little bit better, if you ever use it, give me a call before you go to that appointment. I'll tutor you a little bit or by email. They're probably not going to go with it afterwards. Very few they will, because they just think it's too time consuming and complicated, and they already have that with what they're doing in the probate, so they don't want to add to that, even though at first the extra money was very enticing to them. So we just took that off their table, right? They're no longer thinking high retail now, and I can reference back to this if they do later on. Okay, does that sound good? All right. Next page. Any questions on that one? Okay. So if you go to the next flyer, the top should read, "We have a motivated buyer ready to bring you an offer." Here's another one. Okay. Now this is just basically the same information that we had just sent them, 10 days to 2 weeks ago. We may wait, 4 weeks before we send this one. My bird dogs, if they're on this particular one, will follow up usually every 30 days just to see if they've been getting our stuff and if anything changes and stuff like that. I'll make those calls myself. And that's how we stay on top of things when these people change their mind. Because the worst thing in the world is that you're sitting with them and they liked you and you think you're going to get that listing or bring a buyer or buy it, and they tell you as soon as the PR is approved in 30 days, we'll talk again, and then you see it, it went pending or it was listed. That's crazy, right? So this is how we cut that down. It'll still happen, but this is how we cut it. So this particular last flyer is what we send out there. So there's my branding. This is one of the Remax ones before I change over to EXP. So you can see it. You can use it. Now there's some new legislation in California that's coming out right now. I've been told about is going to change if you're on a team and you're advertising as part of the Gary D team. There's some adherence you're going to have to do differently. So we're going to be changing the flyers with the people that send out and do their branding that it doesn't say the Gary D team. They're just talking that, but it's not on their advertisement form, so they don't have to comply with these rules. Now, if you're in California, that's going to affect you. It's not that major, but it just, we have to stay on top of things. Your brokers should know about it, okay? All right, so here we are now. We're into this thing about 40 minutes, and we just talked about how we contact the estate through mailers. Mailing is the phone, and we're going to get into some phone work, some scripts that we do. Gary Jr. is going to talk about mindset and scripts that he uses, trained by some of the best. I'm not saying me, some very high producers, and he'll tell you about that stuff. But first of all, before we do this, on the 2-day weekend that we had one of our guest speakers was Steve Napolitan, and he is our business coach. And what he does with us is make sure that our websites and everything is tweaked the correct way so that our message is getting out to our customers. And that's not only our diamond farming customers, but going after executors and attorneys and all this stuff. So he did a fantastic hour-long session, and he, of course, he has a fee if you work with him like anything else, but his $2,000 class he gave away for $247 to my students that weekend, and it was fantastic. And they're going up to spend 2 days with him up. He's out of the Roseville area in California, which is above Sacramento. But Steve is our business coach, and what he can do for you if you're interested in this, and we're just giving you everything that everybody else got over the weekend, is that he can help you brand yourself targeted to what you want from your real estate business, either as an investor or an agent. So if you are interested in maybe talking to Steve one-on-one on the phone, getting a little bit more information from him on what he does, just shoot us an email, and we'll put him in touch with you, and you guys can have a conversation, and maybe you'll see some value there like we did, okay? But he's already helped us a lot since we just started with him this year, and he's helped us a lot. He's a great guy. He happens to be Italian, so he already had us sold from the beginning, but I think you guys will enjoy him. So, all right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to get into contacting the estate by phone. But I think before we start this, I'm going to give everybody about a 10-minute break. So you could, if you have to make a call or you need to use a restroom or whatever, that you can go do that. And then I have 6:42 on my phone. Let's call it 6:40, and we're going to come back at 10 minutes to 7. Okay? Any questions you may have, go ahead and post them. Okay, everybody, I'm back. I hope we're all ready to roll. If anybody's not here, tell me. You guys like that one? We got to put a little humor in here, right? Okay, so we're going to get into now on contacting the estate by phone, which is really it's the backbone of what we do. And a lot of times people have trouble with the phone. 40 years of doing real estate, and the phone is still a dredge to me too, as well. But if you want to really take advantage of this particular niche that you guys have bought into, then you're going to have to get used to the phone, or you're going to have somebody do it for you. Now, where I'm coming from now, 25, 26 years later in probate, I have people doing the calls for me now, and I'm basically just going on the appointments. And the one person that has this up for me is my son, Gary Jr., and that you're going to hear from next on just kind of the mindset of making this phone. And he's going to go into some helpful hints for you and talk about a few things. And again, just make sure that you post your questions on there. And we're going to give you some scripts and just kind of help you out. Now, you're not going to get off this phone call and be able to start, being a pro on the phone. Now, you may be good on the phone already. So this is just going to help you and kind of laser you to thinking that you're going to be talking to PRs now that might be a little bit different than what you have in the past. So next up, I want to introduce my son, Gary Jr. He's been with me in and out with me over the last 10 years. He's going to tell you everything about what he's doing. He's a major component of my diamond farming program and my real estate program now, and he's gonna be very helpful for you guys. So I want to turn it over to Gary, and I'm sure you're going to join us. We had one question. Hello, all. Just got home from work, but was listening via the phone. Great, Wally. Well, welcome. You're getting into the real good stuff right now, so you're okay. So, everybody, here's Gary Jr., and enjoy.
All right, everybody. How are you? This is Gary Jr. here. I just want to make sure that my father didn't accidentally hit the mute button and nobody's hearing me. So if you are hearing me out there, let me know that you hear me and that we're good to go, and we'll get started with this. Um, I believe I'm probably not going to share with you guys anything you don't already know. I'm sure that most of you are already pretty efficient on the phone. Thanks, Walt. I appreciate that. I'm more than confident that all of you are pretty efficient on the phone as it is, and I'm sure it's already part of your DMO as you're generating business. But like my father said, I handle all of the business development, which in real estate is telephone prospecting, for his not only his diamond farming business, but also our probate real estate, our buying and selling business. And he just asked me, I know he keeps saying, he said the same thing on the 2-day event, and I'm going to be talking about mindset and this and that. And it's really not, I'm not really sharing too much about mindset. So I hope that you guys didn't get, led in the wrong direction. I'm really just going to share with you kind of my approach. Um, and the information I'm going to share with you on the slides to come are really basic, really the initial steps that I was taking when I was first licensed in real estate back in 2005. And when I was first licensed, I was with Coldwell Banker on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, or Beverly Hills rather. And I was working for a guy who on my first day handed me, I want to say, a 500 stack pieces of paper, and it was a printout of his farm from our title company. And then he handed me 2 scripts. On one index card, it said just listed, and on the other card, it said just sold. And he told me, dial all day long, read the words on these cards, do all the just listed calls first, do all the just sold calls second. Your day's not done until you've called every single number in this booklet. And obviously, this guy was teaching me the most important thing about the real estate business, which is connecting with people. That's what this business is all about, and building rapport. And as much as I love to be in front of our clientele. I mean, that's the most effective way, right, to build rapport. The quickest way nowadays is on the phone. The most aggressive way today is on the phone. And I know if any of you feel a little intimidated by the phone, if the phone feels like it weighs 5,000 pounds, believe me, I was there. I know exactly how you feel when I was sitting there at that Coldwell Banker's office. This is how I looked. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know why I was calling. But thankfully, the gentleman that I was working with, Kirk, handed me some great words from a great real estate coach by the name of Mike Ferry. And I am Mike Ferry trained. I was with the Mike Ferry organization for many, many years. In the beginning part of my real estate business, I attended all the events, went through all the training, and really took pride in being on the phone, generating business. And I really took a liking to it, so much to the fact that it kind of pulled me out of real estate. After about my fourth year in real estate, I started getting some offers from other companies. And on the slide previous to this one, you saw probably a lot of other companies, not just real estate, Heartland Payment Systems, Valor, Mind Jams, things like that. And these are just companies that I did some business development for. For whatever reason, there was a need for new clientele, and just through referrals, it got passed on to the hiring people who contacted me and asked me to come in for a certain amount of time. Usually it was on a 90-day time frame, and I just basically made cold calls for these companies and drummed up new business, new clientele for them. And it's really hard if any of you guys are out there are a jack of all trades, master of none. It's really difficult to juggle all these balls, juggle all these balls in the air while you're trying to build business at the same time. So I let all that go. I got refocused again a couple of years back, and I'm back full time with my father, just focusing on the real estate. I never left the real estate. I've always had that. I've always worked with my father, but I will say that this business development road did take me down a very, very interesting road. No regrets. Got to tell you guys, the real estate business is the best place to be. I was in a lot of different other sales environments, and real estate, in my opinion, is just the best place to be. It has the highest income potential. You work your own hours. You run your own business. I don't know about you, but that's music to my ears. So let's get going here. So just like I was saying a moment ago, when I was at Coldwell Banker, I looked just like these people here. I was terrified of the phone. And then I got involved with Mike Ferry. I started learning the ins and outs and the psychology behind being on the phone. I understood immediately that in a people business, you're not going to be able to be afraid to engage other individuals. And the phone is a fantastic way to do that. So I was starting to build up some confidence, or I was starting to build up some steam, like a steam engine. If you guys can all visualize right now a steam engine, when a steam engine leaves the station, it's not going, 200 miles an hour. It's not going 100 miles an hour. It starts off incredibly slow, and it builds up traction, and it builds up momentum. And when that momentum is firing on all cylinders, that same steam engine that was crawling out of the station will smash through a cinder block wall and not skip a beat. And that's exactly what happens when you start in on the phone. You could have been on the phone in a past life. Maybe you're maybe you're a little gun shy getting back into the saddle, but you already know this. And if you don't, I'm telling you, you're going to build up steam. You're going to build up momentum. And once you build up that momentum, you're going to become unstoppable, because really what it takes to build rapport on the phone, it's just confidence, and it's just conviction in what you're saying, speaking with a certain level of education, the way that you're conveying your message to the listener on the other end. You almost have to, not almost, but you definitely have to be able to create a character in their mind, in their subconscious mind. You almost want them to picture you in their own mind by how they are judging and reading your voice, your tonality, your pace, the words you're choosing to use, the way you're conveying your message. All of that creates a picture. And if I didn't have my picture up on the slide previous to this one, you'd all would be doing that right now. And I hope you guys don't picture my father. No, I'm just giving him a hard time there. But like I was saying, you're going to build up momentum. The momentum is going to start to build up confidence. And as you begin to create more confidence in yourself and in this process, you're going to begin to generate more conviction in your message. And once all those things line up for you and click, you're off to the races. Because what I learned from the journey that I just got off of, being involved in a bunch of different types of businesses, but still I was doing the same thing, sitting in front of a phone and a computer, wearing a headset, dialing the phone for 6 to 8 hours a day. That's where the money's made. That's just really where the money's made. Real estate is a great business because we get the opportunity to get out of the office. We get the opportunity to go and meet people face to face, press the flesh, make some friends, make some eye contact. But really, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, and you're not going to be able to reach the kind of numbers that you're going to want to reach to earn the kind of income that you want to earn with this if you're not willing to get on the phone and reach out and touch as many people as you possibly can. Now, I've stole some pictures here from the Wolf of Wall Street. Now, I'm not condoning their behavior, okay? I'm not, except for how they approached their business development. And those guys were incredibly aggressive on the phone. They did not take no for an answer. They pushed. They understood that that phone was their lifeline and their connection to the business that was going to put meat on the table for them. That's exactly how I want you to look at the phone. Now, I'm not saying be as aggressive and be as crazy as these guys are. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is value that phone in front of you as if it is responsible for your livelihood and puts all the meat on the table for you and your family to eat. Because when you have that type of opportunity in front of you, it's going to be much, much easier for your stickability to come out, keep you in front of the phone, keep you in your desk, keep you in the rhythm so you can start building up more confidence, which in turn is going to create more conviction in your voice, which is going to release the motivation and is going to release the momentum that you need to have a breakthrough. So that's what I mean by money is made on the phone. Now, getting into the thick of things here, the way that I work is I'm a very visual person. So when I got started back in 2005 making phone calls, and I had my first experience at Coldwell Banker calling just listed, just sold, now I understood why I was calling, who I was calling, what the end result of my call needed to be. And what I did immediately was I created a roadmap. For a just listed call and for a just sold call, I created roadmaps for each one of those with an intro tailored to that type of a call, 3 questions tailored to that type of a call, and from those questions I'm gathering information from the prospect on the phone that I can now mash together into my pitch or my solution, which will lead me right into my close. This is a very effective approach to phone prospecting, and really what you're doing on the phone. And if any of you ever have seen a video of me prospecting, or if my father ever shared any of the audios that I don't even think we have, I don't know where they are. They're all on CD actually. But what you will notice is I don't talk a lot on the phone. I say short, powerful, clear messages, or I ask real short, clear, to the point questions, and I spend more of my time listening and letting the other person, the prospect on the phone, do most of the talking. Now, this is really for 2 reasons. Number one, if you ask the right questions, they're going to tell you everything you need to know to get that deal, or to at least get off the phone with an appointment, a face-to-face appointment. And second of all, people like to talk. They like to talk about themselves, and they like to talk about what's going on with them and this and that. People just like to talk in general. So if you act like an alligator salesman, if you haven't heard that term before, that's, if you picture an alligator, they just have 2 eyes and a big wide open mouth and no ears. You're probably going to frustrate a lot of people. You're going to come across very salesy, and you're going to get really frustrated because you're going to have to go through a tremendous amount of numbers to get any results. When we're getting in front of 4 to 5 calls out of the 10 calls that we make, maybe we're gonna go sit down with 4 to 5 of those people. It's almost 50%. It's pretty stellar, and it's a psychological game that we're playing, where we're crafting and building our roadmap going into these calls with our executors. We're formatting our intro, so I'm gonna get into this right now, but we're establishing experience and presence in our intro. Our 3 questions are questions that are asking for information that we're going to need, that's going to help us pitch the right pitch for that right person, for their right predicament in that right situation, which is going to lead to an obvious, well, yeah, of course I'd like to meet you, close. So getting into that, hold on, Gary Senior's sending me a message. Okay, so getting into that, when I have my roadmap, after I've built my roadmap for an executor, you have to also remember that there are 4 different types of personalities that you're going to deal with when you're on the phone making these calls. So after you've developed your roadmap of something that you feel comfortable with, the next thing that you want to do is format that roadmap so you'll have a direction to go with each type of personality that you're going to engage with. And again, remember, they're doing most of the talking. So you're going to be able to gauge their personality while they're talking with you, while they're certain words they're using, the tone in their voice, the volume of their voice, the pace in their voice. You're going to be able to take all of that and say, oh, okay, this guy's really dominant. And you're going to pull out your roadmap, which is your intro, your questions, your pitch, your close, all formatted in a way that a dominant person is going to accept. It's that old mirror and match technique that Mike Ferry teaches. If any of you have ever taken any of the Mike Ferry classes, he's very big on mirror and matching the other person's tonality and their speech and their pacing and all that. So we do the same thing, but we do it with not only their speech type, but also their personality type. So you're literally going to be mirroring the person on the phone. I think that's a real important aspect to phone prospecting. Next, what I do is, now that I have my roadmap and I have a roadmap for my 4 personality types, now I have my playbook. Now I can go, and I did this with all the different companies that I worked with. I would go from working for my father when he was over at Remax. I would have my playbook for probates, and then if I was leaving to go to, maybe I was going to go do some executive recruiting business development for this company of Valor out of Los Angeles, I would grab my personality playbook titled Valor, and it would have my roadmaps in there for all 4 personalities, and I just pick up that file and I just go. So I'm not saying to you guys go and prospect for other companies. What I am trying to tell you is that you might have other jobs on the side of what you're doing. You might have other responsibilities that you're doing while you're selling real estate on the side. Or if you're full-time in real estate, develop your personality playbook. You can use my scripts from tonight. I'm going to show you them in a second, but you want to really kind of have your own words. That's how you're going to be able to build up confidence and conviction much faster. If you're speaking the way you speak, you can use our words, change them so it is more comfortable for you. But really get your roadmap developed, tweak your roadmap to fit those 4 different personality types, and then keep all that stuff with you in your desk, have it readily available. So when you're on the phone and you've delivered your intro, and the executor or the PR is responding to your intro, while they're responding, you're picking out which roadmap you're going to follow based on how you're gauging their personality. It's really big. This is a big deal, because if you're not going into these phone calls prepared, you're really just kind of trying to snipe somebody from a mile away with a shotgun, when you really want to hone in that scope. You really want to find your target, and you want to take the best shot possible. And by you developing this personality playbook before you go into your prospecting time, whether it's 2 or 4 hours a day, by going into it prepared like this, you're getting that scope laser sharp, and you're going to be able to hit more than you miss. Now, one of the most important things that my father taught me early on in my probate business is that ignorance on fire is going to make you a whole lot more money than intelligence does on ice. And what that means, and it's kind of funny, but it's really true. What this means is, maybe you're brand new to probate, maybe you're brand new to real estate, but you're just fired up and you're excited to be working with my father, and you're excited that you actually have somebody with all of this knowledge and experience willing to pour it into you at your request. And you're fired up and you want to get out there and you want to start generating some business. Go and do that because you're going to get that ball moving. You're that train, you're that steam engine leaving the station, getting built up, and before you know it, you're going to have so much momentum. You're not even going to know what you're doing and what's going on, but you're going to have deals in the hopper because you're going out with your excitement and you're motivated and you're just doing it. You could be the most seasoned realtor or an investor that there is in the business. You could have 40, 55, 65 years of experience and done hundreds and thousands of millions of dollars in production. But if you're just sitting there and you're not doing anything, come on, guys, I don't need to tell you, the executors aren't going to be calling you, asking you to come and buy their property or list their property. So get out there and just start applying what you're learning from the diamond farming into your business right away. Just get out there and just start doing it and figuring out what works best for you. Now, for me, I like to have daily goals, and this was another thing. Everything that I'm showing you all came from my father when I was first getting started. I tweaked it a little bit with the Mike Ferry training that I was getting, but for the most part, Gary Senior is responsible for all of this. This is really good. We would set daily goals just so I could manage my expectations. And we would start off very, very small. Maybe I would just want to contact 5 to 10 people. That was my range. It's kind of like when you're in the gym and you're doing a set. They don't say do a set of 10. I don't know about you guys, but I've always been told do a set of 10 to 15 because maybe by the third set I can't do 15 anymore, but I still got 11 or 12 reps in. That's still good. You hit your mark. So we would set a nice, simple daily goal to start with of 5 to 10 contacts a day. And now when I say contact, I don't mean an answering machine. I don't mean somebody's voicemail. What I mean is a live-bodied person answers the phone and you have a conversation. That's a contact. Even if it's a no, that's a contact. Okay? So we want to be making 5 to 10 contacts a day. And you want to be able to try to hit your goal within a certain amount of time. You don't want to spend all day just trying to make these 5 or 10 contacts because that's not going to really teach you how to build up momentum, how to dial quicker. If any of you guys are Mike Ferry trained agents or have any experience with Mike Ferry whatsoever, I'm sure you've heard the stories about the agents that would be at their desks standing up, dialing from 2 different phones, wearing 2 different headsets. That was me. I would dial from 2 phones, 2 headsets. With one phone picked up, I'd be on that phone, and I would let the other phone ring until it did pick up, and I'd hang it up. I know they're home, calling them right back after I close this guy. So if you're trying to work within a certain amount of time, you're going to start doing things to increase your call volume. If you give yourself an endless amount of time to try to hit your contacts, you're going to have 5 to 10 minute gaps in between phone calls because, oh, my wife sent me an email, a new picture about our new puppy. I want to look at it and tell her how cute it is. Or I'm going to hop on Facebook and see what's going on with my next high school reunion. Or you know what? I got to go to the bathroom again. Or I need to go get this drink of water. You're going to start justifying reasons why you shouldn't be on the phone when you should be trying to rip through as many phone calls as you can, because what we're really all trying to do is we're trying to build up momentum. We're trying to build up momentum with our call volume, because as we build up more momentum, we're going to start building up that conviction, and that conviction is going to bring us a ton more business because people want to deal with people who know what they're doing. Now, after you reach your goal, just increase your daily goal. Just increase it by 5. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. We're not trying to set records or break records here. All we're trying to do is learn and master a new craft and generate some new business. So set up your contacts very, very moderate, 5 to 10 a day. Just give yourself a good amount of time. When I started, I only prospected for 2 hours a day. That was it. And if I had a bad day, I had a bad day. If I didn't hit my goal, I didn't hit my goal. Michael Jordan, you know, he's the greatest basketball player of all time. He still missed free throws. He still missed game winner shots, but at least he was taking the shot over and over and over again. You're not going to hit your goal every single day. That doesn't mean you don't get out of bed the next day and you don't get back into the pilot seat and start making phone calls again. No, you give yourself the time. You try to do what you need to do to get your call volume up so you're hitting those contacts, and as you hit those contacts, just increase your call volume by 5 to 10, or by your contacts by 5 to 10 contacts a day. That's it. And most importantly, at the bottom there, it says track your successes and your failures. It took me a long time. I mean, I shouldn't say it took me a long time to understand that. I always understood it. I guess I was just young and rebellious in my earlier ages when I was working with my father, and I had never really liked keeping stats. Like even when I was growing up playing basketball, I never really kept stats and tracked my misses and my makes or anything like that. Just never something that I did. When I started doing this, I have to tell you, and I'm not ashamed to say this, my father was 100% right. By tracking your successes and your failures, it will create a very vivid picture of your performances, and you're going to be able to gauge yourself and increase what you're doing in the pilot seat when you're making your phone calls, so you can start edging yourself over the line and being more successful. If you don't know where you're failing or where you're succeeding at, number one, if you don't know where you're failing, you're not going to have a basis of comparison to bounce back from and to get better and improve from. And if you're not able to track your successes, you're not going to have anything to be able to duplicate. And that's all we're really trying to do here is we're trying to know what works, what doesn't work, eliminate as best as we can and eradicate the things that don't work out of our system and do more of the things that are helping us have success. So track everything that you're doing. And now to get into a little bit of the mindset psychology of being on the phone, because it is different and it does take a different animal to really embrace the phone, but it's a very emotional thing. Getting on the phone, especially dealing with the executives and the PRs like we're doing in the probate business. And you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your down. You're going to have those days where you did a great job, you spoke to 5 or 6 really great people and they were all nice to you. And you're going to have those days where people are yelling at you on the phone and they are just, they can't believe that you're calling them at a time like this. And, you know, I'm so ashamed of you. You're going to get those calls too. And that's okay, because by the time they hang up on you, I promise you, they're not even going to remember you by the time they're having dinner that night. So you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have wins, you're going to have losses. Just stay on this emotional roller coaster. This is really important, and I know it's kind of funny because it's, you know, a roller coaster and it's kind of a fun-looking picture, but there's a lot of truth to this. If you jump off this roller coaster too early, I mean, think about it. You're on a roller coaster right now. You're going up, you're going down, you're going around in circles. If you jump off before the finish, what happens? Well, you die or you get really hurt. You hurt enough to where maybe you wish you were dead because the medical bills are going to be so much. But the thing is if you stay on, you go through the ups, you go through the downs, you go through the twists and the turns, you're going to make it to the finish line. And what usually happens when you make it to the finish of a roller coaster that was just scaring the life out of you? We want to go again, right? And then it gets less scary and less scary and less scary. So just stay on this ride when you're on the phone making your prospecting calls. It's going to be emotional. You're going to have days where you just don't want to do it anymore, but you still have 45 more minutes of your window, and those 45 minutes feel like 45 days. Just get through it, because when you get through it, the sense of accomplishment, the reward emotionally that you're going to experience then is going to make that springboard time the next time you're having a down period, a low day, the time is just going by forever. That springboard time for you to snap yourself out of it and get back into the pilot seat and get cracking again is going to reduce. And each time you have that win, it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then before you know it, you're going to be able to snap yourself out of a downtrend like that at a snap. You're never going to be able to eradicate and complete the down days in this business. That's what kind of how it goes in sales and in real estate in general. You're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. There's no way to eradicate those from existence, but we can manage them. And this is how you do it. You stay on the emotional roller coaster. Now, another thing that was very psychological for me that my father taught me, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to share with you, and I'm sure all of you on here have probably heard this from one time to another, but we all have our own comfort zones, things that we do in our personal lives and in our professional lives that we're just comfortable with. And it's just called our comfort zone. Now, in business and in life, in both my personal life, my athletic life, and in my business life, when my father taught me this and I started to apply it to my life, once I started to stretch my comfort zone and get outside my comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. And all the success that you want out of your probate business lives right outside your comfort zone. And you are terrified to the gills to make phone calls, to the degree that you know you have to do to generate business, well, get outside your comfort zone. Get a little uncomfortable, because your goals that you had in place when you first learned about probate real estate and Gary DeGrazia Sr. and got excited and felt that sense of hope that, wow, I could actually do something different and generate a lot of money. I mean, you know what probate real estate really is, everybody? I'll tell you right now. This is what it is in a nutshell. It's working smarter and not working harder. That's what probate real estate is. But in order for you to achieve that, you're going to have to get outside of your comfort zone just a little bit. Just a little bit, and that's where all the magic happens. I promise you that. I only tell you that because I lived it. I live it to this day. I try to stretch my comfort zone as far as it possibly can go. And I just know that getting outside of our comfort zones, it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but it's only going to bring good things into our lives, both personally and professionally. Now, getting into some of the things that I say on the phone, I know this is what you guys have been waiting for. This is not a script that I use today. Like when I was making calls this afternoon and this morning, I was not saying these words verbatim. This is a script that I kind of mashed together from back in the days when I was first getting started making phone calls, and I was using a roadmap and generating questions and all the stuff that we talked about a few slides back. I wanted to give you something real basic and very general, something that I was using in my early days. Nowadays, I don't use a script. I'm at a point where I prefer just to get on the phone and get into a conversation with somebody and just kind of go off the cuff and just use the knowledge that I know from over the years of working next to my father. I can pretty much take that conversation anywhere that we want it to go. But I only got there because I was using scripts that my father was giving to me, and then I was reworking them a little bit just so it sounded more like the way that I speak. And then I would follow those scripts verbatim, because if I learned anything from Mike Ferry, it was stay on the script, read it word for word, don't add or subtract anything from the script. And I pretty much kept that discipline the same thing when I was working with my father and his scripts. But for the most part, a very simple intro that kind of already handles a few objections that they might be having, because you got to remember you're probably not the only call from a realtor or an investor that they received on the subject property. So I would say something to, very breezy, very simple. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Smith. This is Gary calling. And I understand you're busy. I promise I'm going to be brief and I'm going to be worth your time. And I understand that Ann Smith appointed you, the PR or the executor, whatever it says on your PTS, your probate tracking sheet. If they're the executor, you're appointed the executor of the estate home over on Via Arroyo. I know you're tired of all the sales calls, Mr. Smith. I know that you're tired of all the sales calls on the estate home, Mr. Smith. This isn't a sales call. I'm an ally of yours. I actually do say that today. I was saying that all afternoon today. It's something that I feel is an icebreaker. Even though we're making a sales call, and these are sales calls, when you call an executor and the first thing that's coming out of your mouth is, I know you've been receiving a lot of phone calls on the estate home. This is not a sales call. I'm an ally. I can make the call stop for you. The walls start to come down. That first wall comes down, and you have just a little bit more of their ear. They're not ready to tell you some lie like I'm not selling or I've already listed the property, because usually when the executor or the PR comes right out real fast before you've even gotten into your spiel, something like that, you and I both know it's BS. They're just trying to get you off the phone. They probably just had a guy on the phone before you called doing the same thing. So I try to eliminate those things, and I'm not trying to sell them right now. All I'm trying to do is just knock down a wall, let them lend me their ear just for a few seconds longer, and I put that little question there, or that little segment there in yellow, because I'm just warming them up. I'm just pinching them. I'm rubbing on their ear a little bit. I'm just warming them up. And now the next one that's an orange, it's kind of going in a little bit hotter now. I'm trying to test them. If I can continue with them and they continue to let me in on this next thing that I bring up, I know that I'm getting warmer. I'm heating up now. And I know you've never gone through a frustrating, time-sucking process like probate before, nor do you really want to. I understand that, Mr. Smith, but probate's been my family business for over 25 years. Now, for you guys on this online class, you're not going to be able to use those words verbatim because you're not part of my immediate family. But what you are able to say is like what my father was saying earlier, and it would be kind of something more like, I know you've never gone through a frustrating and time-sucking process like probate before, nor do you really want to, but I'll tell you what, Mr. Smith, I'm working with an individual who is an expert, who's been working in the probate niche for over 25 years. And I work with him and handle all of the probate business in fill in your area, whatever area it is there, Texas, Arizona, whatever it is. I'm working directly with this expert who has over 25 years of experience. I handle all the probate business here in Flagstaff, Arizona. I can say this is the hot thing here. This is the sentence right now that I'm going to say. This is a sentence that is going to either allow you to keep going in this phone call or go on to the next one. I can save you time and money. They all want to save time and money, wouldn't you agree? So that's why that's there. Nobody's going to say, no, don't save me time and money. I got to go. What's the purpose of your call? They're still listening at that point. They want to hear what the next thing is that you're going to say. So if they're still a little quiet, I give them a half of a second to say something. And if it's quiet, I keep going. I'm sure as you have a friend or a family member, I'm just going to assume that right off the bat. I'm sure you already have a friend or a family member who wants to help you with the estate home, but you don't have to sell, Mr. Smith. I can give you more options. And if you do want to sell, I even can charge you 0 commission. Now, at this point, we're talking some business. At this point, even though we haven't really told them this is a sales call or treat it like a sales call, we're getting into a sales call, aren't we? But because of the way that we set this thing up, they're just listening. Now, at this point right now, they're talking. You're listening, they're talking. That's something I also want to tell you is I give them a half a second to say something after I take a breath. If they talk, let them talk. They're going to go and go and go and go and go and go and go. And as soon as they leave you an opening, you jump right back into the next thing. So if I'm listening, I'm letting them talk, and I'm letting them talk, and I'm letting them talk. They're talking about this guy that called who said they can give him this price. They're talking about this other guy that sent them this piece of paper that wants to buy it right now. They'll close it in 10 days, all cash. They're just going to talk and talk and talk and talk. I'm just waiting. And then as soon as they finish talking, I'm just going to say, well, is the plan to sell the estate home during, before, or after final distribution? I'm just going to come out with that question. Doesn't matter what they just told me. I'm listening to it. I'm taking my notes, but I need to get the answers to these questions right here. This is our firepower. So they're going to say all that stuff that they're going to say. They're going to tell us about everybody who's been calling them and who's been trying to get their business. And as soon as they give you that little inch of room down the lane, you go through it. And you go through it with this first question: is the plan to sell the estate home before, during, or after final distribution? And they're going to answer it because they're already in a rhythm of listening to you and talking with you. They're already conversing with you. They're going to say, oh, well, you know, the plan is to sell it before. And you're listening, right? So you're going to make that note and go right into the next question. Well, why do you plan on selling before final distribution? And you can see here how I put all 3 options. If they said we're going to sell after, you would just insert that. Whoa, oh, okay, Mr. Smith, why do you plan on selling after final distribution? And then you listen to them. You listen to them, you let them talk, and you take notes. And while they're doing all of that, you're writing down hot buttons and reasons and answers to questions that you have that they're giving you the answers for, their whole life story on what they're planning on doing with this house, what all the air, you're writing all this stuff down and making notes. And then again, as soon as they're done and they give me that little window, I go right into my next question. Well, I can send you some information by email about the real estate going through probate totally for free. It's great information. It's really helpful. What's a good email for you? So this is formatted in a question, but it's not really a question. I'm basically commanding that they give me their email address. I want to send them information, all those flyers that my father was talking about a little while ago. We send that stuff by mail, but we have also stuff that we send via email just to follow up the phone prospecting calls that we make. I don't want to ask them for an email. I want to basically assume the close on an email, tell them to give me an email, but I use it in a question form. And now I got all the information that I need. I got their email address, so we're going to be following up with them no matter how this phone call goes. I know when they're planning on selling the property. They're going to sell it before final distribution. They're telling me why and everything like that. I have all of my notes now, so I've basically, while they've been talking, what have I been doing? I've been taking all of my notes and listening to them, and I created my pitch. I created the solution phase of the roadmap. Mr. Smith, for over 25 years, my family's been helping families like yours and individuals like yourself with responsibilities on this estate property. And I understand you want to sell before final distribution so you can pay off all those debts you're telling me about, and you want to get that done in the shortest amount of time possible, and you really want to just move on with your life. I understand this has been bogging you down and sucking time away from you and your family. What I'd like to do is just set up some time for you, myself, my father, to have a conversation on the next steps so we can get all that done in the fastest amount of time possible for you so you can move on with your life. Doesn't that sound great? Now, everything that I just spitted out right there was just off the cuff. I'm just pretending like I'm talking to an executor right now. This script right here, you just kind of take it for what it is and you rework it in a way that's comfortable for you to talk, however you sound, whatever words you like to use, however you are in just your natural life. Take the essence of these scripts here and make it your own. That's really the best way it's going to work. So doesn't that sound great? Of course they're going to say, yeah, that sounds great, or they're going to say something. So I go right into the close, and my close is to set up an appointment for my father. Like I said, this really isn't a sales call, so I don't want to get into all the business aspects. So why don't we just plan for some time in the future, and we can talk a little bit more. I'll tell you about the options available for the estate that most people and most agents don't know about. So when do you have 5 or 10 minutes? It could be either later today, it could be tomorrow. What's better for you? They're going to tell you, you write it down, and then, Mr. Smith, it really has been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm looking now. You got to confirm your appointment, Mr. Smith. It's really been great speaking with you. I'm excited that we had this conversation. Thank you for your time. I'm excited to be speaking with you again tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. I'll call you at 6 o'clock right on the dot. We're only going to need about 5 or 10 minutes. You don't need to have anything with you. Just make sure that you're available by 6, because I'll be calling you at 6, and we'll have a 5 to 10 minute conversation. You have any questions for me before we go? Usually they're going to say no. Sometimes they'll ask you if you have a buyer. The way that I answer that question is always the same. Mr. Smith, that's a great question. You know what? I don't have the answer that you want for that right now. I'm going to have to do a little bit of market research for you, but I'll tell you what, I'll have the answer for you tomorrow night when I talk to you at 6. I want to try and confirm that appointment as many times as I can. And that was something that I learned through one of my Mike Ferry coaches, was really try to confirm and reconfirm an appointment that you finally get with somebody on the phone. Because once you've done that 3 times, it's locked in. They already feel committed to you subconsciously. I mean, you're just that much closer to getting into a contract with people when you've reconfirmed the appointment time. And even if it's just a phone call appointment, it doesn't matter. You're getting into their subconscious. You're already kind of building this commitment. Now, when I call these people back, if I'm calling Mr. Smith back tomorrow, and it's tomorrow at 6 o'clock right now, I'm just calling back and I'm doing a 3-way call with my father. Each and every one of you can do the exact same thing. If you guys get on a phone call tomorrow and you have a great phone call and you have a time set up for the next day or for Friday to touch back with them and have a follow-up phone call, and you want Gary Sr. on there, all you do is you send them an email or you call them. I suggest you send them an email, because the guy gets hundreds of calls a day. You send them an email. Say, Gary, I got a live one. We're having a follow-up call on Friday at 3 o'clock your time. Here's the information that I got on the subject property. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Is this, is that? Da, 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 da. Give him as much information as you can from your conversation, and then when you call Mr. Smith back on Friday, all you're going to basically do is just introduce your partner, Gary D., and then just let him take it from there. Hey, Mr. Smith, how are you? Now let's just pretend that I'm not Gary Jr. He's not my father. Hey, Mr. Smith, how are you? Yeah, it was really great talking with you the other day. You know what? I wanted to kind of go over and beyond for you. What I went ahead and did was I contacted Gary DeGrazia, the expert that I was telling you about when we spoke on Wednesday. yeah, I contacted him, told him about our conversation, told him that we had a really good conversation, told him a little bit about what you told me about the estate and that you're trying to sell it before final distribution. I was able to get him to join us on this phone call so he could really answer all your questions right now, and you don't have to wait for anything. Let me patch him through. I don't ask for their permission to patch him through. Some people can get a little squirrely on a three-way call. All I say is, let me patch him through. My father's usually waiting on the other line. I merge the call. Gary Sr., I want you to meet Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, here's who I was telling you about, the probate guru, 25 years of experience. He has all the answers and all the information that you need to get everything that you want in the time that you want, at least from what you were telling me the other day. So, Gary DeGrazia, here's Mr. Smith. And then my father will take it over right there and finish it out for you. So anyways, that's just my approach. That's really how I've been approaching it for the last several years. Of course, now that I've eliminated all the other professional distractions in my life and I'm back 100% in the real estate, that's going to change. I'll be closing my own appointments and I'll be going on my own appointments. And we can revisit that as we get into that, and as you progress more in your prospecting skills and your prospecting business. You know, we can always get back on an online class again, and I can start sharing my method of closing for my own appointments and not using a three-way call with my father, because eventually you're all going to want to be, standing on your own 2 feet. But for now, I just want to kind of get into my final tips for you, and these are really the final tips that my father gave me when he was first teaching me how to talk to PRs and executors. Role play as much as you can. I used to role play with my father, and that was hard because he would ask me, he would pretend to be the executor, and he would ask questions that he knew I didn't know the answer to. He just wanted to see me squirm, and he wanted to see how I would get out of it. So, I mean, I role played with the most difficult person to role play with because he's so knowledgeable. But that's what is able to build up your chops and get you to a point to where you're so confident on the phone. It doesn't matter. You're trying to get to the next call because you know that it's just a matter of time before you get that one person that's like, yeah, let's go right now. And that's going to happen for you guys. So role play, role play, role play, role play. What I would recommend for all of you are Diamond Farming members, hop on the bulletin board and put a post up and say, prospecting role play partners wanted, and just start picking up start a little community, start picking up a few role playing partners. Doesn't matter where they are. Set up a time each week where you're going to role play. It doesn't got to be every day. I mean, let's start off something easy. Let's say like 2 days a week. Why don't you guys get some role play partners and just go through, each of you being the executor and each of you being the agent or investor calling, and record them. Share that stuff with myself and my father. Let us send you some notes on it. That's really how you're going to get better quicker, is by role playing. And work on your scripts. Remember that you're going to have to start off reading a script verbatim, and it might sound kind of funny while you are reading it. It might sound a little choppy, but you got to get through that point first. It's like, baby Vinny, my new son that all of you are aware of. And let me thank all of you for being so understanding and being so flexible with your schedules to accommodate my brand new growing family. We didn't plan on him being here on the 4th. He was actually due on the 18th. He shouldn't even be here yet. But, it's in God's hands. When the boy was ready to be here, he came. So thank you guys for that. But work on your scripts. Make it yours. Read them verbatim until it just comes out like fluid water. And you're going to know when you can get on a call and not need to read from the script, and you're just going to be able to go. And what I mean by work on your script is not so much work on the words that you're saying to them, more so work on receiving the questions from the prospect and getting the answer to those questions that you don't know, and then working those answers into your script. So you're eliminating and eradicating any objections that come up as much as you can through the course of the small amount of time that you're going to be speaking on the phone. Another real good tip, and this is kind of an obvious one, be consistent. Be consistent. Don't just prospect for 1 week and have, get nothing out of it and say, this doesn't work. Forget it. I'm done. Be consistent. Keep this going. I didn't get my first real estate deal the very first phone call that I ever made when I first started coaching with Mike Ferry. It took a month before we really started building up some momentum and putting together deals, but it happened. It happened, and once that happened, we were off to the races, and my father and I were getting awards left and right at our Remax office in Castro Valley, and it was all from the 2-hour prospecting that we were doing, because we weren't doing a whole lot of other marketing other than just Gary Jr. on the phone. So being consistent is going to help, like I was saying in the beginning of this here, being consistent is going to help you build up momentum. Building up momentum is going to help you develop confidence. When you're confident, you're going to be able to speak with conviction. And when you're speaking with conviction, you're going to control the conversation. And that's going to help you get laser focus, dial in your scope, and hit more of your targets. Now, again, I'm going to come back to tracking your data, tracking your calls. That's how many calls you made, how many contacts you made, how the call went, take notes from the calls, write down questions you don't know, ask those questions on the bulletin board, send those questions that you don't know the answers to Gary Sr. and get the answers to them, and start building up some data that you're going to have all part of your probate prospecting binder, so you can start building this knowledge base that you can always refer back to. And then in time, all of that knowledge that is in that binder that you compiled over the X amount of years of you doing this consistently day in and day out is now just going to become assumed knowledge of yours. And who knows, maybe you'll even be teaching people how to do this one day. Lastly, always work with a mentor or somebody that can critique. And I gotta apologize for some of my typos here. This was all developed the night before my wife went into labor. I never had a chance I never really got back to it. So ignore the typos. I think you get the point. But always work with a mentor, or if you don't have a mentor, work with somebody in your office or somebody else that's on the same level as you, a colleague, to critique your performance and to just make suggestions on adjustments that you could be making, really, so you can just come across more authentically. That's what we're trying to accomplish here, is you just want to come across authentically. When you're on the phone, if you don't sound authentic, you're going to sound salesy, and they're going to be ignoring every word you're saying while you're talking, and you're going to get really frustrated. You're not going to understand why this is working, and really it's just because you sound like a salesperson. So if you have somebody critiquing you and helping you tweak your performance and helping you sound more authentic, by sounding more authentic, that's what really ties everything together. When I tell you you need to develop momentum, to develop the confidence, to develop the conviction, all of that right there is what's going to ties it all in to you sounding much more convincing on the phone, much more authentic. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for my little part here on contacting the estate. We're going to get into a little bit more stuff here with my father. Let's see if there's any questions. One from Wally. Walt, let's be role play partners. There you go. Wally and Walt partnering up, making magic happen here, being role playing partners. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. Will's got a good question. What time worked best for making calls? So here's what I do. That's a great question, Will. So I make calls in the morning. I call from 10 to 12. So just 2 hours in the morning, and then when I can find the time during the week, I'll make calls in the evenings, from usually from like 4 to 6 or 5 to 7. See if I can catch anybody there, and then I absolutely get on the phones on Saturdays. And Saturdays, instead of spending 2 hours, I'll spend 4 hours, kind of like an open house. But I'll just sit in the office, and for 4 hours, instead of being at an open house, I'll just make phone calls to all the executives I was trying to reach that week on a Saturday. And you're going to hit a lot more of them on a Saturday. And what also is really good about calling on a Saturday, everybody, usually your competition isn't. So it's going to really kind of put you ahead of the race there by making phone calls on a Saturday. Does that sound good? All right, so it looks like Walt and Wally are going to be role-playing partners. I encourage the rest of you guys to get some role-playing partners. And if you have any other questions as we're progressing, don't worry about asking them right away. Okay, so we're going to take another question just came in. Is it best to have a phone that's not your regular biz? Great question. Fantastic question. So yes and no. I suggest, this is just what I personally did. I suggest you have a personal phone that's for your friends and your family, and you have another phone, another cell phone, strictly for real estate business. Um, I just don't do well personally having. When I'm with my family, of course I'm going to want to have a cell phone with me because somebody might call me to go play basketball or send a text about the Warrior game that we're watching. Something's going to happen. I got to be able to communicate with the people closest to me, friends and family. But I don't necessarily want to be taking business calls at 7 o'clock on a Thursday when I'm hanging out with my friends or my family. So that's a great question, Walt. So I would say, or Wally, I would say if you can, have a cell phone for your personal life, have a cell phone for your business. One thing that you probably don't want to do is make phone calls from a restricted number. It's kind of rude, and I say rude only because you're making a sales call. You're cold calling somebody. So it's kind of like it's a premeditated, I'm hiding behind this number. You don't want, everybody else is doing that. Everyone else is calling from a Vonage box with a restricted number because they don't really want to show who they are. That's not what this is. We're trying to build rapport. We want to let these people in. We want to be comfortable on our end of the phone so they're comfortable with us so they don't treat us like a salesman. So I would say yes to getting a phone for biz, but making sure that your phone number and your name comes up on the caller ID, not have it come up as restricted. All right, cool. Doing it tomorrow. Have one. I didn't like it. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, all right, guys, we're going to take 30 seconds here for any other questions to pop in, and then Gary Sr. is going to pop back on here. Thanks for your time, everybody. Hope you got some value out of that. Okay, great question came up. I wanted to cut off the commercial from our music here for a second. How does do not call list come into play? Okay, great question, Arthur. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let Gary Sr. answer that question because we want to stay on schedule. We don't want to run too late here. So Gary Sr. is ready to go. He'll answer that question for you, Arthur.
Okay, everybody. That was my long-winded son who's inherited all my traits. But what fantastic information. And, I wouldn't put anybody on there that I wasn't confident with. And, to turn over my business to him like I have and a couple other burn dogs that for the first, 20 years, I did this all myself, everything. So I've had to learn how to delegate whatever, but it's actually been a blessing in disguise. And Gary's fantastic. What Gary gave you tonight is for those of you that can afford to be full time in this and do it, do it every day. Of course, you can wind this down. You don't have to be calling every day. You could call once a week. If you're only going to do it one time a week just because your schedule doesn't permit, do it on a Saturday morning between 10 and 12. That's probably your best time of the week. Of course, sometimes people won't be around on the weekend. So if you could just get one weekend call time frame from 10 to 12 or during the week, don't call people after about 6:30 because they've had a long day. You're going to get them in a bad frame of mind. But if you start calling around 5 to 6:30, you'll get people at home. But that 10 to 12 spot during the day, you'd be surprised, is a very good time. And also Saturday 10 to 12. So you can do this with just an hour or two a week of calls. Okay, you may not be the guy that's on every lead and the guy that's doing every day, but it doesn't mean that you can't do the business and pick up a deal. All right, so don't let the fact that you can't do it every day stop you, because you'll do it as much as you can. A little bit it's going to be on what you set for your timeline, and I would just set a timeline, and that's what you're going to do. Don't try to do it every day and put off other things, because if you don't have instant success, you're going to walk away from this. Okay, so yeah, I do have people calling for me right now. Very, very select people call for me right now. My son, and I have two of the bird dogs that have been trained. Not that I haven't had a lot of bird dogs over the years, but it's very hard to get the people on the right, the right frame of mind. So what I've done is, because I've expanded to 5 counties now, I have to have help, and I got 3 guys calling over 5 counties. What I do is I do the follow-up calls when they've made a connection. So every week I'm following up with the calls with the people we're having those 25 conversations with. They're just setting the initial stage. So, okay. Do you use VAs? I don't know what you mean by VAs. Oh, virtual assistants. Okay. Yeah, that's because I'm a tech dinosaur. No, I use live guys here locally. I'm not going to the virtual world for any of this. Again, I have to sit in front of somebody face to face, not on the phone, and see how they operate, train them. I bring them in for classes and make sure they're doing this stuff right to represent me out there in the street. So I don't use virtual assistants, okay? But I'm telling you, there are plenty of people out there that are very good at this. What I recommend is that you all do it yourself first and understand what works and what doesn't work. So when you're starting to go to assistants, or bird dogs as I call them, to make calls, you are teaching them the right things. Otherwise, they're going to be gone after a few months if they don't make any money. So again, I've been doing this a long time, so I've kind of been able to scale it down. And Gary covered a lot of good the mindset that, behind making phone calls or whatever. But what I want to do now is go to the script page. The first page after contacting the estate is going to say scripts for contacting the estate. Now, what I want to explain is these scripts are for you to start and become comfortable that are in the book right now, okay? And you need to at least have about 50 conversations with PRs with these scripts before you start changing anything. And a lot of these scripts here are going to be very generic, but they're for a purpose to start in. So it's not something that you really have to get into and think about where you're going on the conversation. This is just to get you comfortable with making the calls. When you're making these calls, I want you to make notes of what questions came up and that you had trouble with. In the early days, you're going to need to know that, because that's how you're going to learn. And you're going to make notes on what went well and also what went bad. Just writing these things down will embed them in your subconscious, and it's going to help you. Plus the fact we can correspond through email even, and tell me the questions that came up. How would you have handled it? Things like this. And this is all going to add to your progress and being great on the phone, okay? Because you all have your own voice that you need to get to after you pass the uncomfortable stage. Now, after you make these calls, and I'm saying do this for the first several months, or at least until you do your first deal. After you make these calls, ask yourself what you wish you would have said, and kind of make note of that, okay? And then any questions, send them to me. It says right there, Gary D. Mr. Probate at gmail.com, okay? And something on there. Another tip was to record yourself. That's fantastic. If you record yourself, also have a mirror in front of you and watch yourself. Try to smile when you talk with people. This is just to get you in the right frame of mind and being happy and talking to people irregardless how things go, because it's going to get uncomfortable. For those of you that are new, what you have to understand is what Gary said. Success is just right around the corner from getting out of your comfort zone. And if you want to have success over and above what the normal guy gets on an 8 to 5 job, if you want to have that extra success, you have to get out of that comfort zone for a while, and then it's going to be comfortable to you, okay? You'll never be completely comfortable on the phone, but you're going to be able to do it a lot easier as time goes by, okay? All right, so go to the next page, and what I have here is a beginning script for you guys. You've probably looked through these already, but I want you, I'm going to break this down for you, because the key paragraph that you can use, now Gary gave some great insight to what he's done, but understand that he's a pro at it right now, and he's put this all into his own voice, so it may take a while for you to get there, but use his suggestions and you'll get there sooner. But a very simple script to use is what I put here to begin with, and this is just to start in, okay? You're not even looking for the yes or the deal. You're looking just to get a comfort zone on making a call and getting familiar with that, and then eventually you'll be able to tweak that and put it in your own voice as you start having success. So first, the phone rings, And so, somebody's going to say hello, and I'm going to say, hi, is this Gary? And the PR is going to say, yes, it is. Who's this? That's usually what they say. And I'm going to say, Gary, you don't know me, but I'm calling on the Smith estate, which I understand is in probate, and you're the person to speak to if this property is going to be sold. Now, what I'll do is I'll pause about 5 seconds. Now, if there's no response, and usually 99% of the time they're going to say something right then is, yes, I am. How did you know? How did you get my phone number? They're going to talk. But if they don't, just go, will you be selling during the probate or after final distribution? Very simple stuff. And just learn to master that. And then a response will be, well, we're going to sell, but we're not sure when. Call me back in a few months. Well, great. Fantastic. I certainly will call you back, Gary. I would like to also send you some information on how the team has been assisting estates when they have a need to sell for over 25 years now. Now, can I send you some of that information before I follow up with you? And usually they're going to say yes because you're letting them off the hook. And I say, sure, go ahead. They're going to say something to that effect. I say, great. Now, this is key. What is your best email? And I'll shoot it over, okay? Now, we're not asking them, can I have your email? Because most people will say no, and they don't know why. But what you say is just ask for the business. You're asking for the business by saying, great, what's your best email? I'll shoot it over. Sure, here it is. It's usually going to get it. I'll say, okay, it's, something email at AOL. Okay, great. I will send the info you need to know about, and then we'll follow up in a couple of months as you ask. Does that sound good? Fantastic, great. Now then I'll say, Gary, before I go, let me ask you something. You said you're thinking about selling, after the probate or after your, PR approval, whatever they say. But I want to end on this note because this is how you're going to get now business. I'll say, Gary, before I go, if we have an offer for you, would you take a look at it? Because I come in contact with people all the time that want that particular neighborhood that you have, the properties at. They're usually going to say, sure, but I can't promise anything, or, okay, yeah, give me a call or whatever. Now, this was our goal. Now, we can't market and bring them an offer. Now we can market and bring them an offer. All right? I have a way I do this without bothering the estate, and we can now find a retail buyer, which is the key, and earn the 6% fee. Okay? So what that all means right there is what I wanted to do was for them to give me the green light to bring them an offer. So we're going to actually put in our ad campaign, which is what we use is Craigslist. Now you can't use the address and you can't say it's your listing because it's not, but we'll use keywords like estate wants offer this weekend or estate wants offer or whatever. And we'll talk in generic terms, no address. We'll just use a subdivision. And I'll usually put a price range that's around what was on the petition to probate or maybe a little under. And if I really want to be creative, I'll put try 500 when the petition said 550 because, everything could be negotiable, right? And that will get your phone to ring if that number is under what that area is selling for. Now, the key here, of course, when you're calling is you want to get an appointment right now if they want an offer. If they're not going to allow you to go to that spot when you call them, making these calls and you connect, then the next best thing is to get an email. And if they say follow up, get permission to bring them an offer. And then what you're going to do by doing your advertising on the Craigslist, you're going to be able to start two things: get a buyer for it, and you'll be able to start building your buyer's bank. So you'll put them into that subdivision. Let's say it's in the Baywood subdivision at Castro Valley. This buyer is looking for this particular house and the ad said, Baywood estate seller wants offer this weekend. Then 2-bedroom, 1-bath, whatever it happens to be. Try 400. These things are selling like 450 now. Try 400, 425, whatever may push the people to call you. Okay, and you'll get agents that'll call you on this, whether you're an investor or agent or not. They're going to call you and test you, because they have a buyer for the property. And this was more prevalent when the inventory was very low, but today there's a little bit more inventory, so they won't bother you too much. But we always put principal only in the ad, and then when they call, I tell them exactly what I do. Hey, I represent, I bring buyers and sellers on estate properties together. This is not a listing I have. I have a permission to bring them an offer. Now, if you'd like to work on this, if you're telling me you have a buyer, Joe agent, great. I'll put you in the file. And if you're willing to work on a 50-50 with me, whatever the commission is that we get, we can do that together. Now, keep in mind, if I'm working on a no commission and their buyer's going to pay the commission, and we're putting this deal together. So I want to go too far off into that right now because we're just talking about script. So the key is something simple that you can get comfortable with. Okay, that's what you want to do. Comfortable with the same script that you're going to do about 50 times, and then you're going to track and record what went well in those conversations, what did not go well, how many bad calls that you got, and you're going to get a lot saying, "Wow, you're the 10th guy that called me," or I got everybody in town's happened to call me. What's going on? If you're getting these leads from a service, you won't ever say that you're getting them from a service and all that. People get offended by that. You just say, "Well, do you realize this is public information, Gary?" Really? I didn't know that. Yeah, and the team I'm with works, across the country, and I happen to work here in, Tucson, Arizona, and we're tracking every probate here in the county, and because we assist the PRs and the heirs and the executors on when they have a real estate need, that'll just open up other conversations. But if you just try to master that first part of this, how you don't know who I am, blah 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 blah, and then get the green light to bring them an offer that they'll just look at, and also get their email address. And then if you get a buyer that next week, this has happened many times, I call them up and say, "Gary, guess what? A buyer came across my desk, and they're very interested in your Baywood property. I'm going to send them by if it's okay with you. They know the area. I've told them they cannot come on the property or bother you, but I just want to have permission to let them drive by if that's okay with you. And then I'll let you know, if they decided they want to make an offer, then we can talk again. Is that cool with you?" And usually they're going to say, "Yeah, yeah," because it's not really getting into their discomfort zone yet. You're telling them things most other people aren't. Most other people is, "I'll give you all cash, the best offer, or I'm the best listing agent, in the world, and I want to help you." Okay, so most people are coming from the fact, "I want to make money off you." Okay, and of course we are making money, and we're getting paid well in these deals, but that's not the position we come from. We want to help them, and if that means we're helping them by us making less money, but we did a better job for them, that's what we're doing. And then that's going to come back to us with referrals and leeways with letters of recommendations and things like that. That's going to help the business. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so if you go to the next page, I have just put some things in here that will come up. So on the top here, page 2, the PR may say, they'll tell you, "Yes, we want to sell. What is your price?" Now, if they say that, this is what I would say: "Gary, we would love to bring you an offer. I just need to take a look at the inside so we can make sure our numbers are right. Can you or someone let me in today or tomorrow, take a quick look?" And the reason I say it that way is a lot of times the PR is not living at the property, or they may even be out of area. But they usually have somebody, a contact, that will have a key for the property if it's vacant, or maybe there's somebody living there and they can set it up where you could take a look. And normally they'll say, "Sure, when we can. When do you want to go?" Basically is what they say. And I'll always give them two options. If I'm going with you, if you're here in the Bay Area and you're asking me to go with you on the appointment, which I do with my students, it's normally after 2 o'clock at 2, 3:30, or 5. And Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays, Wednesdays anytime, Saturdays, you can see it right there, 12 to 2. But if you're out of area, then of course that's not going to make any sense for you. But eventually you'll have some help if you get a network agent. If you're an investor or if you're an agent, you're going to be able to network with yourself. It's a little bit out of area, and that's what I do right now. I have an agent in each county that I work, and they go do. I just had an agent today go and take a listing on one that we took away from another agent. I went on one trip. This is his third. He just sealed the listing today. So that's eventually where you'll get to. As an investor or an agent, you'll have a network team that you're using with this. If you want to go that big, you may be a guy or a woman that has a great job. You just want to make some extra money, and you'd be happy to do 1 or 2 extra deals a year as an investor and pick yourself up, anywhere from 60 to 100 grand. Or if you're a real estate agent, you're trying to do a handful of extra deals a year. You're basically, maybe you're retired, semi-retired, and you just want to make an extra 50 grand a year or something like that. So it doesn't mean it has to be all out like we do it right now. Okay, so make sure you understand it on here. Don't confuse what we do with what you have to do time wise. Scale it down to what fits for you. So we'll set the appointment, and I'm going to send a probate tracking sheet to Gary D with comments. Now I'm telling you, this is what you would do if I'm coming with you. You have a probate tracking sheet. It's in your course. You would write all your conversation, and if I'm going with you, you would send that to me, email it, or fax it to me, and I'm able to look at everything on there and kind of catch up and have a conversation with you before we go out there if I'm going. Or if you're in one of my areas where I have a top probate agent already there who's willing to work with you, I'll send him. Like SoCal, I got a guy right now, and we're developing one in Texas right now, one in Phoenix right now. Okay, so let's say the PR says, they are selling, but they have an agent already. So what are you going to do with that, either as an investor or an agent? Now, what I do is, as an agent, I'll say, great, did you sign the listing yet? The reason I ask is our programs are designed to save the estate time and money. Plus, it is important to work with an agent who understands the probate process. Now, does your agent have a no commission program or a 14-day listing contract guarantee, home and escrow, or recancel? Now, these are going to be hot buttons that you're pushing. And all we're doing here, if they haven't signed a listing, now if they have, you got to bow out gracefully. You can't solicit someone else's client and just say, hey, great, I wish you all the luck with it. You have my number here. If it doesn't go for whatever reason, I would love to have another conversation with you. Good luck. There you go. But if they haven't signed and you're going to try and get in front of them with these hot buttons so you can talk to them about the no commission program or my $5,000 better offer than anyone else gives you wholesale, and there's procedures we do with that. If they're taking us up on that, they're going to have to show us their best offer in writing, and then we're going to give them $5,000 over it. But during our due diligence, we may work backwards, and you'll understand that when we talk about presenting our offer. Okay, all right. Everything's wired in here. Okay. They may say, well, it's my family member, and we don't want to upset them, him or her, or my state attorney referred them to us, or we have been talking to an agent. You're going to hear all this if you're going to be busy with probates. Again, I'm going to say, how about we meet and we explain our programs, no obligation or costs, and then when you are informed of all the options and money saved, you can interview these other agents and see who's the best candidate to assist you. That will work for you. We'll get a chance to swing the bat with them, and if they say no, we better not, because maybe it's their family member. And I say, great, I understand. Who will list the property? Because we can bring you an offer now, and if it works for you and your agent can participate. I've done that many times. It was their brother, and actually out of area, SoCal. They were going to have him handle sale, like that was going to happen. A property up here in NorCal. He was in SoCal, and maybe he was going to come up, and whatever. So all they did is we cut them in on the deal. I brought the buyer, we put the deal together. I gave them a 25% referral for not doing anything. They were happy with it, so they wouldn't have to travel, and we put the deal together. Or if the guy was local at the house, I get my 3%. Your family member can pay you whatever they want to. We go that route, okay? And if my buyer's paying the commission, and I tell them, that's how I would tell them that. Okay, it's 3%. My buyer's paying me, so have the state pay you. That way, your buyer's not paying 6% that another agent is going to get. Okay, all right. And I'll say they'll tell me, well, how did you get my number? That will come up a lot. And basically what I say is, Gary, this is public information. I've already mentioned this. Okay, but here it is again. Not sure you know that. And we work with every probate in all 5 Bay Area counties, assisting where help and expertise is needed. That's a great statement right there, because you're subconsciously planning with them that you're a probate pro, and believe me, that will eat on them a little bit, because we get calls later on and we give them a few buzzwords like letters of testamentary or notice of proposed action, and their agents don't know what that means, or say, well, I'll call the attorney and find out. That sets off that little video or recording in their mind when we told them if they don't know what these things mean, they probably aren't the probate agent that you really want. So, okay. You may get PRCU SOB, don't call me again. Okay? That's going to come up. All right? Now, it comes up a lot less than it did in the past because I've softened the way we approach the estates, and we come kind of from a compassion, position rather than just business. I was too much business in the early days, and I wasn't considering or factoring in the loss to this family member. Now, in reality, by the time they're doing something with the probate property, whether that's a month after someone passed or a year, the mourning period has usually been completed. I mean, they still have a loss and they're still reflecting on that loss, but the hardcore mourning period has been completed because that's why they're moving forward with the probate now. They're ready. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. And when it happens, just send them a thank you card with your business card, the next day, and write a little note that you're sorry that you upset them. It wasn't your intention, and just that we're here to help if you decide you need some. God bless and whatever you want to say. Okay, so it's 8:10 now, so we're gonna close this out. But you'll see there's a few extra scripts in the back here of this session, another 3 pages, and those are just all different scenarios that could come up. But what I want you to do is start with the first one I gave you, and that is ring ring, and they say hello, and I say, Gary, you don't know me, but I'm calling on the Smith estate, which I understand is in probate, and you're the person to speak to if this property is going to be sold. That's your easiest way to start, and then go there. As an agent or an investor, it doesn't matter, okay? And then go with there, start practicing, read your scripts after the phone call, see what went wrong, like I said, and you will be great, okay? All right, somebody's asking me for a copy of my Craigslist ad. I guess we could do that. What I'll do is I'll pull one of them, I'll give it to Gary, and he can email it to anybody that asks for it, but send him an email for it so he can blast it all at one time. If you want one, send the email tomorrow so we get it done, okay? And that should help you for your Craigslist ad. So, is there any other questions? Give you a little time to post them, and while you're posting, if you want to, our next session that we're going to be going through is setting the appointment with the personal ref. Now we gotten the appointment, and what do we do? Okay, so I'm gonna explain to you that we did get an appointment, and what are you going to do when you go on that appointment? I'm going to kind of give you an overlay of what we do, and that'll help you a little bit. And then we should have time to get into the next session, which will be appraising the probate home. And all that is I'm going to show you how I value the property. Okay, now there's seasoned people on here. You know how to take comps and appraise the property. So I'm not telling you to do it a different way. I'm just showing you how I do it. So you'll be able to compare that to what you do, and maybe you will see something that you like that you want to add into your process. Excuse me, because you have to go there knowing what the value of the property is. Now, this is not the appointment where you're going to present your offer. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Okay, this is where you're going to go get a visual of the property, and you're going to start enhancing that relationship that you started on the phone with the PR, personal rep, and who's going to be either the executor or the administrator, and you're going to check out the property, take your pictures, your notes, so you're going to be able to value it. So when you come back and you present your offer, which is a different session, you'll know what you're doing. So we should be able to get through 2 sessions. Now, we have a family event this Thursday night. So I got a question I need to pose to you on here tonight. We can't go Thursday because it involves a grandchild and it's a school function we have to be at. So the choices are, we can give you the next session Friday night at 6 o'clock. Now we realize a lot of you guys go out. I'm normally out for dinner on Friday nights, but I'll sacrifice that if it's good for all of you. Or we can pick up on next Tuesday, and we'll go strong next Tuesday and next Thursday. So I need to know if anybody has a problem or does not want to go Friday night, or you want to just pick up next Tuesday and we'll go from there. Okay. So anybody on here have an issue? Okay, we have Walt says Friday. So what I want to know is anybody not good with Friday night, 6 o'clock, or does the group rather go with next Tuesday? And just give me the hey. Okay, we got a couple with Friday. Okay, anybody else? Okay, all right. So it's looking like there's nothing wrong for Friday night. So we're gonna go Friday night at 6 o'clock again. We'll do these other two sessions, then we'll pick up again that following Tuesday. Okay. So we're getting deep into this now, guys. And again, we're giving you a lot of information, and we realize it's a little tougher uh, over the webinar because you're not sitting in front of us and body language and face to face and being able to ask questions a little bit easier. But you're going to get this. And again, forget everything that came to you tonight except don't quit until you do one probate deal, whatever that means to you. Flip, a wholesale, a double end sale, or a listing. And all this will sort itself out for you once you do your first deal. Because now you've had a success, you understand the hoops you went through to get there, all the wrong turns and the mistakes you made. But with our help, you got there finally. Maybe it took 3 or 4 deals before you actually got one. And then once it's down, you're going to know what was the successes that made you that happen. What did you do right that made that happen? And then you're going to be able to say, I hate this business. I don't want to be anywhere near it. I don't care that I just made 15 grand commission or I just made a 40 grand flip. Now, I would find it hard to believe that anybody would say that, but they could, because it could be other things other than money. It could be, I'm just uncomfortable talking with people who lost somebody in their family. Now, I feel that way with people who are losing their home. That's why I don't deal in foreclosed properties, foreclosures. And I don't want to deal, especially with pre-foreclosures, with people that are losing their home. And I think it's outrageous for people. Now, there's circumstances when people should have their home taken away, but for the majority of people that lose their home because of circumstances, I just refuse to work in that niche. So somebody could feel that way about probates after they did. I did foreclosures. I did them. And that was my outcome. Even though they were lucrative, I did not want to work in that niche, in that environment, with people losing their homes. So I don't have that problem with probates because I understand that we're really helping them here. It's free money. It's not a financial distress situation. Somebody's going to sell it or buy it, whatever. We want to give them the best service and do it. Okay? All right, so what I'm hearing is nobody has a problem with Friday. This is your chance to say, I can't do it Friday. If one tells me they can't do it Friday, then we're moving to Tuesday. So we're going to give you about 30 seconds to post that. And no, we won't put you in timeout. We won't take away your manual. We'll understand, but I know it's a weekend, and I don't want anybody to feel that they have to go with it. They can't, because this is not a race. And we'll just pick up next Tuesday and Thursday, so it's all good. So about another 10 seconds. Okay, we are good. We're going to be here Friday, 6 o'clock. We will see you guys then. Thanks for your time.